The fight to secure health care for millions of North Carolinians clears two big hurdles today, but it's not a done deal yet. What's next for the Medicaid funding bill after today's votes? Dangerous levels of lead seeping up through the soil from old landfills. It has closed local parks and could be putting your family at risk. So we took our questions to the city and environmental leaders to ask why more isn't being done to let people know about these dangers under their feet.
It's warm and dry for the rest of the week, but I'm tracking increasing rain chances for your weekend.
All right, votes on Medicaid, lead in parks, and maybe, just possibly a little bit of rain in the forecast. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm Dan Haggerty. Thanks for being with us. So much to talk about tonight and every night. We're glad you're joining us here at 7 o'clock. And this, again, is the newscast that wants you to be a part of it. We want to hear from you. You help drive what we talk about. Every night when you email 7 p.m. at WRAL.com, we are taking your questions, comments, and feedback, and they are leading to news stories that show up in this newscast. So please keep those emails coming. First up tonight, state lawmakers keeping busy at the Capitol. A plan to fund Medicaid. It passes both the House and Senate. A final vote is expected next week, and this is a big deal for a big reason. The program was set to run out of money next month, and that would have left millions of North Carolinians without any coverage. But there are some new rules and some new measures baked into this new plan that some lawmakers aren't so sure about. WRL State Government reporter Caroline Jaffe has the story.
A Republican legislative proposal advanced today, giving Governor Josh Stein and Democrats what they've been pushing for, which is $319 million for Medicaid funding. The bill would give the state's Medicaid program exactly what it needs to keep from going broke next month.
We've always said and knew that eventually we would have to give more funds to it. So I think that this is sort of just the status quo of what we've done in the past.
Republican lawmakers added several provisions that divided some Democrats. Representative Pricey Harrison said she disagreed with background checks tied to the program and funds for an audit into the program. Republican leaders say those measures are necessary to crack down on fraud and waste.
Our caucus was fully supportive of the governor and the agency, and I feel somewhat guilty that I wasn't more supportive of that, but I just couldn't swallow the bad stuff with the good this time.
This was a good start in some of the portions of the bill that deal with getting our hands around waste, fraud, and abuse, and just prices that are getting out of control.
Governor Josh Stein will have to decide whether he's going to sign the bill if it reaches his desk after an expected vote happens next week. I reached out to his office, and he has not taken a public stance just yet. Caroline Jaffe, WRAL News, Raleigh.
Okay. All right. So thank you to Caroline, first of all. Now, before everybody takes a victory lap here about this deal on Medicaid, you should know the story is not over. It's not even close to being over. You see, there are some major federal changes coming to Medicaid a little later this year. On October 1st, eligibility will change for certain immigrants, refugees, people granted asylum. They will be denied coverage. Then in December, things change for people who benefited from the Medicaid expansion. You see, right now, eligibility is checked every year. On December 31st, low-income adults benefiting from Medicaid expansion must get their eligibility checked every 6 months. So twice a year, not every year. Plus, they must prove that they work at least 80 hours per month. Seniors and children, we should mention, will be exempt from this new timing requirement. All of those changes come from H.R. 1, also more famously known as the One Big Beautiful Bill. And it means a big chunk of people using Medicaid today might not have access to it this time next year. Ashley Rowe asked North Carolina's health secretary about this.
How can you assure people who are on Medicaid, as you said, 1 in 4, that the expansion will stay in North Carolina, that they will still get their Medicaid coverage?
Yeah. This, again, is an area of common understanding with all the stakeholders, whether it's beneficiaries, this agency, General Assembly. We all appreciate the importance of Medicaid expansion. So some of the things that H.R. 1 requires us to do around work requirements and so forth, as early as July, when the law was passed, we were starting to think about what does the agency need to do to ensure that we don't put the 725,000 individuals who now have Medicaid services through expansion at risk.
And how do you do that?
Part of it is to make sure we fully understand what the law requires of us, communicating consistently as we've done with stakeholders, working with our counties. In North Carolina, so much of that work happens at the county level, so we've been working very closely at the county level, understanding where we may have some gaps and risks and finding what we can do to close those. So it's been a lot of work. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say we're just rolling into it. It's been a lot of work, but we're going to do everything we can to ensure that those individuals who have coverage through expansion are able to keep it.
And Ashley, also pressed Dr. Sangvi on waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicaid. You can find their full conversation over on the WRAL YouTube page. Just get on there and search Medicaid. All right, let's get to a story happening right now here at 7 o'clock. Firefighters responding to a fire on Brigham Drive in Fayetteville. Brian Schrader is keeping an eye on this for us from the WRAL Live Center. What do we know, Brian?
We've been getting a lot of videos and tips at WRAL.com/reported. Take a look at this video from Sandra Wirtz. This is happening at Hope Mills Road and Bingham Drive there on the southwest side of Fayetteville. You see a large fire burning there with a lot of black smoke and a lot of firefighters on the scene. This is another view of that. This video from Steve, and you can see that dark smoke. I looked at that area, and this appears to be coming from a spot near a lot of auto repair shops. So we're working to find out more about it right now, and we're going to be updating this story through the rest of the evening here. But clearly a very large fire burning right now in the southern part of Fayetteville.
So let's hope everybody's okay, Brian. Yeah, that's a lot of smoke there. We'll check back with you. In the meantime, let's check in with meteorologist Kat Campbell. She's outside tonight in the WRAL weather patio. Got another nice day, a dry day. Kat, some folks could see some spotty showers later tonight. Some prayers answered, thank goodness. I know it's not a ton. Every little drop helps, though.
Oh, absolutely. And Roxborough has seen some of that rain, so has Carr Lake and Lake Gaston. It is really limited to our counties that border Virginia. As you loop this, you can see that as those showers sag to the south, they just kind of dissipate a bit. So the odds that this actually makes it to us in the triangle, pretty low, unfortunately. But hey, we want to give a nice win to Roxborough. Henderson seeing some rain, and the lakes, they got to see a little bit of rain earlier today as well. Futurecast continues to show all that activity really fizzling out tonight. So I wouldn't expect to see any expansion of those showers on the radar, unfortunately. We did warm up today. High temperatures reached 85 in Raleigh, 84 in Durham, 80 in Wilmington. Even Boone had 79 degrees for the high this afternoon. It was a nice warm day thanks to our southwest wind that's kicking in. I'll have a closer look at when temperatures could near 90 degrees again coming up, as well as the outlook from NC State for this year's hurricane season.
That's right. We'll check back in, get the lowdown on that. Thank you, Kat. All right, if you're just getting to the news tonight, let's get you caught up. These are the 5 things you should know right now. A Benson police officer is in jail on $5 million bond. This is Peter Blake. Faces several charges, including rape and kidnapping. The SBI says that the woman accusing Blake of these crimes reported them to the police department, and they immediately went to the DA. Blake was fired from the department earlier today. Well, it's an all clear at Jordan High School in Durham. The school went on lockdown this afternoon as investigators searched for a weapon. They didn't find anything. Students were dismissed, and that lockdown was lifted around 5 o'clock. 4 lobbyists face charges in Wake County. They're accused of giving illegal gifts to state lawmakers. This goes back to 2024, a story you may remember. There was a group of lobbyists and politicians. They took this trip to Kentucky and went on a tour of some bourbon distilleries. And according to the indictments, the lobbyists asked companies that they worked for to contribute to the political nonprofit, which then paid for this trip. That's not supposed to happen that way. People who were on that trip say the whole thing is overblown. We'll let you know what happens next on the investigation. Water restrictions are now in place in Fuquay Arena. Stage 1 rules, they take effect on Friday. So what's that mean? Well, if you're on the Fuquay Arena water system, you can only use sprinklers on certain days. Even numbered addresses on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Odd numbered addresses on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. You can find the full breakdown on WRAL.com. More biopharma investment coming to the Triangle. AbbVie will bring 730 jobs to Durham County, building a $1.3 billion facility. It's expected to open in 2031. The company will get up to $26 million worth of incentives from the state to move their facility and build it there and have those jobs. This now makes about $5 billion in biopharma investments in our area in just over a year. That is a lot of money. Still ahead, why do parks in our area keep closing because of lead? I mean, well, yeah, we know that lead can be dangerous. That's the easy part. What I mean is, why is the lead there in the first place? Well, it turns out landfills have a lot to do with it. Gill Street Park was built on a landfill a long time ago, so are all the parks built on landfills dangerous? Is that what I'm supposed to take from this? And what can we do about it all? We push for some answers for you after the break. And after 2 people died in a fight-turned shooting in Winston-Salem, we asked the question, should adults who witness this stuff face charges if they don't intervene? That is tonight on WRAL News at 11. Well, you have folks who are unaware that their property is contaminated. That is your quote of the day. And it's coming from the spokesperson for the town of Zebulon, and she is talking about lead. Specifically, lead found in a Zebulon park. It was found at Gill Street Park. Right now, that park is closed while the town and their officials there try to figure out what to do next. Now, you should know Gill Street Park was built on an old landfill, and spots like these can be hot spots for lead. But like you just heard from the town spokesperson there, lots of people, well, they don't know that. We wanted to know why there isn't more awareness out there and what officials are supposed to do about this information. WRAL's Heidi Kirk pushed for answers.
Signs remain posted and the gate padlocked at Gill Street Park just weeks after lead was discovered in the soil.
You have folks who are unaware that their property is contaminated.
Documents obtained by WRAL show the Department of Environmental Quality notified the town that their park was built on top of an old landfill in 2017. The DEQ says that's the only notification it sent out at the time. And the town says that is the last time they heard from the state before the town reached out in 2024 when considering development there.
We think a more coordinated effort amongst municipalities, counties in the state is very important.
Zebulon's Parks and Recreation Director Sheila Long says more notifications and education about these sites could have helped them decide the next step sooner.
A letter that says, hey, there's a pre-regulated landfill in your community, it doesn't necessarily provide any guidance that you should go and start doing soil testing, or there might be a public health issue that you want to take into consideration.
We reached out to the DEQ with questions asking about its current policy for notifying municipalities about parks built on top of old landfills. They say while regular notifications weren't sent in the past, they are currently developing a process for providing notifications to local governments on an ongoing basis. Heidi Kirk, WRAL News, Zebulon.
All right, good stuff from Heidi there. Now, you might hear this story from Zebulon and think, why does this sound familiar? Wasn't there a story just like this in Durham? And you'd be right. 5 parks there remain closed because of lead. Northgate, Lyon, East End, East Durham, and Walltown parks. All 5 of them were also built on landfills, and all 5 of them have been closed now for 2 years. The state expects a summary report on soil testing sometime next month. We'll keep our eyes open for that. And you might hear all of that and think, what is up with building parks on landfills? Why do we do that? Well, it's actually very common, more common than you might think. According to the Center for City Park Excellence, there are at least 1,000 parks in the United States built on landfills. For the most part, these parks don't have many problems at all, but the ones that do are usually the ones that were built before 1991. That was the year the EPA put into some mandatory procedures for closing landfills. Now you have to use special capping technology. You have to use clay and soil and wells. It's all pretty strict. Green Hills County Park in Wake County, they opened in 2010. Southern Community Park in Chapel Hill opened in 2003. Both were built on landfills, and both followed the tougher regulations, and neither have had any issues with lead. But before 1991, the rules were different. You see, in the mid-1900s, lots of cities used incinerators to get rid of garbage. It was effective, but the ash that was left behind contained harmful chemicals, things like arsenic, cadmium, and lead. Those ashes were then dumped into the landfills, and some of those landfills later became parks. Take a wild guess at when they built Gill Street Park in Zebulon and those 5 parks in Durham. All of them built in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. That's why some of these parks keep having problems pop up, because the rules were a little different when they were built, and because there are no major requirements to test for lead in those parks right now. So what else do you want to know about this topic? Anybody who goes to a park, anybody with a family who has children or grandchildren, anybody who goes to a park, I'm sure there are things you're curious about. Send us an email, 7 p.m. at WRAL.com. Tell us what is on your mind. We'll talk about it right here at 7 o'clock. Let's send things out to meteorologist Kat Campbell. She is out in the garden, and it's been a nice night. We have had great weather. We need some rain. There's a fire risk, but all in all, not too bad.
Not too bad. I mean, this is the best time to be outside, is the 7 o'clock hour. I mean, it's just gorgeous out here. We've got a nice little breeze. It's warm. And I have some reassuring news for you about the upcoming hurricane season. Today, NC State released their 2026 hurricane season forecast. There are two colleges that released these early, NC State and Colorado State University. And dating back the past 20 years, the NC State's forecast is about 30 to 45% more accurate than Colorado State's. So here's what they're calling for: 12 to 15 named storms. The average is 15, so that's near or slightly below normal. The average number of hurricanes is 7. They're forecasting 6 to 9. So they're in the normal range for overall hurricanes and below average for major hurricanes, 2 to 3 major hurricanes. This doesn't mean that we're in the clear. It doesn't mean that we won't see anything here locally, but it is nice to not have a year where we have some crazy numbers with an above average hurricane season in the forecast. The Caribbean is expected to see 1 to 3 named storms and 1 to 2 hurricanes in Dr. Shea's report, and the Gulf 2 to 5 named storms, 1 to 2 hurricanes. Dr. Shea was a professor of mine at NC State, and he does a good job. So I always look forward to seeing their forecasts each year. This is the main reason why we're not expecting a major hurricane season this year, and that's because of a La Nina. I want to stress it only takes one. We've had La Ninas the past couple of years, and that's led to a more active season, or we've been neutral. This year, we're not in a La Nina. We're in an El Nino. So what it does is you get weaker trade winds and warmer water in the Eastern Pacific. The Eastern Pacific can be more active, but for us, closer to the main development region and the Caribbean, you get more wind shear because, of course, the water, the wind, it's all connected. And that wind shear helps to tear apart tropical systems before they can develop often in the Eastern Atlantic. So that's good news for us. A reminder, the drought monitor will be updated tomorrow morning between 9 and 10 a.m. And a side note, El Nino years tend to have very wet ends to the summer for us. So that could potentially help us out with this drought long range. It's been the third driest month on record in Raleigh. October 2000 had just a trace. November 1931 had 0.06 inches, and we've only had 0.1 inches of rain so far this month in April. A live look at Garner from the WRAL Garner Tower camera. A beautiful night, 76 degrees, still a bit breezy at times, and a couple of showers remain out there in our northern counties. They are starting to push into the northern part of Durham County. I don't think that most of that rain is going to make it as far south as the Triangle, unfortunately. And even the lucky folks who've seen a little rain, it just hasn't been much. But better than nothing. At least we have something on the radar, even though it's light. We're warming up. 87 tomorrow, 89 Friday. Our best chance for rain comes late Saturday into Saturday night. And you can check in with meteorologist Mike Mays tonight on WRAL for an updated look at Saturday's rain timing.
Sounds good. Thank you to Kat. So we still aren't over the Artemis 2 mission to the moon. We shouldn't be. It's still amazing. It's still something we should be talking about. A little while ago, we told you about this mural on NC State's campus, an ode to the mission and Christina Cook. Tonight, we meet the artist. One last thing, and some of your feedback after the break. One last thing for you tonight. It's such a nice feeling when everything comes full circle, don't you think? That's how the artist behind a mural on NC State's campus is feeling. We showed you this last week. It shows the Greek goddess Artemis being painted by astronaut Christina Cook. Here she is right there, shown with the paintbrush in her hand. We caught up with the artist, and he says it was originally intended as a piece about AI when he completed it in 2024. But John Pugh added Cook as a nod to her alma mater and what was at the time the upcoming Artemis 2 mission. He says the mural's been getting a lot more attention since Cook came back from the moon.
I am just tickled, though, that a relatively kind of hidden thing has become unearthed. AI cannot replace human intuition or the human spirit. It's exciting that looking to the moon, and now she's done it. So it's told its story, I guess you should say, or its forecast has been casted.
It's, full circle. It's completed its orbit, one could say. All right, some quick feedback from some of you watching at home tonight. So David had a question about lead in parks. We talked a little bit about this. We went over it pretty quickly, so I'll reiterate. He asked, where is the lead coming from? Is it paint or lead from acid batteries? So for the most part, this lead, David, came from the ash that was left behind when cities used to incinerate to get rid of all of their garbage, and then they would put it into the landfill. Those aren't used so much anymore, but they were used for all those decades of time as they were filling those landfills. And the ash would end up there, and the landfills would become parks later, and they didn't have the same regulations to cap it and things like that. So that's where you're getting some of that lead and other things. Devin said, hey, 7 p.m. WRAL News Team. I'm a huge fan. Your show's the only newscast I watch. All substance, no fluff. Look, we have some fun from time to time, but we want to have substance. We want this to be a place where you can go and learn about something, and that's why we ask you for all these emails and the smart commentary we get from you at home, so thank you. John said, Dan has won me over. At first, I wasn't sure, but he has owned his spot and crafted his delivery quite well. Thank you so much. That means a lot. It means the world to me. But the inbox can also humble you at times. Terry said, a new low for the already excessive amount of camera time for used car salesman Dan. That's why Kat and Ashley are here, right? Just when people are like, oh, this guy, then, Kat pops up and you go, oh, okay. And then me for a while, and then Ashley, oh, I can watch for another minute. Tonight, you got stuck mainly with me. Thanks for being here. 7 p.m. WRAL.com. Have a good one. Bye.